to own it. Just wanted to take the time, learn all the things that I could about you. Now we are just stressed here. Used to be so easy with you.
Thank you for coming on my show today.
Thank you for having me, Sparkle.
Okay, so explain to my viewers exactly what your district entails.
So I am running for the 5th Congressional District. It's a brand new district, and it basically includes 8 counties. So Fresno County is part of it, Madera, Mariposa, Calaveras, Tuolumne, Amador, El Dorado County, and of course Stanislaus County as well are all in this new district.
So what made you decide to run against someone that's been there for a while in that seat?
You know, really, there are 6 people that are in this race, and I'm not running because I have issues with any of the other 5.
Okay.
But for me, when I look at things like forest management, that's one of the big reasons why I'm running. Currently, I'm on the Board of Supervisors. I represent Eastern Fresno County, and the creek fire happened in my district about 18 months ago. That fire, of course, devastated not only Fresno County, but Madera County too. And the aftermath, we're facing about $500 million in costs to fight that fire and to rebuild from it. And so the creek fire was the largest fire in the state's history, and we continue to see more and more major fires like that. So I'd really like to make some changes. I'd like to make changes to the Endangered Species Act. I also would like to provide more resources to the U.S. Forest Service. They need to partner more with counties, and we really need to be in our forests managing them better. When we do that, we actually create better water. And so right now our forests are so overgrown that a lot of shrubs, grasses, and trees, which are way too dense, they're using a lot of the water that otherwise could be used in our mountain communities and also on the valley floor. So there's a whole host of reasons why I'm running, but really when the creek fire happened in my district, it really broke my heart because of the devastation that I saw, and I want to go back to Washington and be a voice for people who live in rural parts of California.
How do you plan to redistribute the water?
Well, when I look at just water issues, I'm one who believes in local control. And so in this 8-county region, there are multiple water districts, some that have very senior water rights, like the Utica Water District, which delivers water to Arnold, Murphy's, and I believe Angels Camp as well, to districts like the Fresno Irrigation District right here in Fresno County. And so to me, looking at water and water policy, there are people who have very senior water rights, but the state is trying to step in to take these water rights away. And I believe the federal government needs to play a more firm role in making sure that these water rights that local districts have that are very senior are maintained. So I'm one who doesn't paint with a broad brush saying that all water districts need to follow rules that keep them in a box. I'm one who believes that water that is impacting El Dorado County is different than water that impacts us in Fresno County. Some of the districts, like Oakdale Irrigation District, I believe is getting a full allocation of water because they've received enough precipitation. But here, FID is not going to get a full allocation of water because just snowfall in the mountains has been less as you move further to the south. So we need to take a balanced approach as we deal with water issues in this district and throughout California.
So if you do get elected, what do you hope to change in the first year?
Well, so I'm one who believes in building coalitions. And so I'm just going to be one of 435 members in the House of Representatives. And so I can really accomplish nothing alone. So I want to engage the public. I want to be a voice for the rural parts of California. Specifically, this district has very rural counties. You've got Calaveras, Tuolumne County that, have under 100,000 people that live within them. And then you've got Fresno County that has over 1 million people. So I want to make sure the voices of the rural parts of this district are not lost in Washington. And many times I feel like some of the larger cities and counties, they're the ones who have the loudest voice. So I'd like to bring a voice to Washington for this District 5 seat.
And you recently just went to Washington. What are some of the things that you brought to their attention when you were there? So
water is a big issue I brought to their attention. Everyone here in this part of California is aware of Temperance Flat. And Congressman Nunes was fighting for Temperance Flat for over 15 years. But we have some other projects. I like to refer to them as low-hanging fruit, like the Big Dry Creek project. This is a basin right now that can hold 30,000 acre feet, and right now it was created by the Army Corps of Engineers and maintained by them, but it's only used for major flood events. If we repurpose that basin, we could hold water there year-round. And so when we have years like 2019 or 2017 where we have excess rain and water, we could be parking some of that water in that basin instead of allowing it to flow right out to the ocean. So these are things that I was discussing in Washington when I was there just a couple months ago.
What do you think hasn't been done the most that you want to change? Well, like Tom McClintock's, he's been running for a while in that seat. He's been holding it. What were some of the things that you were like, well, I really wish this had changed in the past decade that hasn't changed?
You know, I look at Washington right now and a lot of the elected officials that are there, and I like them as human beings, but there are things that are not happening. And so some of the things that aren't happening, I'm one who believes in local control. But when you look at like the national debt, it's over $30 trillion right now. And so I feel almost like power is being concentrated more and more in Washington and also more and more in Sacramento. I believe the best government happens as close to the people as possible. So again, I want to be a voice on some of these issues, and I don't feel like a lot of Washington politicians are carrying this message. Also, too, I'm one who believes that we need to see more money come back to our district. All of us pay federal income taxes. Many of us have businesses, pay these taxes. But when you take a look at what we get here in the Central Valley, it's not a whole lot. So what I would like to do is Washington has not passed a budget since 2008. They've been able to operate through continuing resolutions, and I think that's very irresponsible. So while I've been involved in local government, I have passed over 20 budgets that all have been balanced. I think Washington needs to do that too. So again, there's a whole host of things that I'd like to change, but I can only do that to the extent that the public believes in me too.
How do you think we can get more money into the Valley?
So again, we need to have a coalition. We need to have people in Washington who know how to build coalitions to get things done. On the Board of Supervisors right now, I've served there for, I'm in my 6th year right now. We have 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats there, and we work together. You wouldn't know who's the Democrat, who's the Republican, because we just focus on getting things done.
So that doesn't become an issue?
For me, it's not an issue. For me, I want to focus on problems that need to be solved. Again, forest management, that's a huge one. We've got millions of acres of forests each year that are burning. It doesn't need to be that way. We should be in our forests thinning them to get them back into a healthy condition. We can take that wood, we can invest in more sawmills, we can create jobs. Right now, housing is a big issue across California and across the United States, yet we import a lot of our timber right here. We could be using the timber in our forests versus allowing it to burn in these huge forest fires.
So we're not utilizing our own resources right now.
We're not utilizing our own resources. We're allowing groups to sue us to keep us from using these resources, and these are things I want to address in Washington.
So being on the Fresno County Board of Supervisors, how do you think that seat has prepared you for this one?
So the Board of Supervisors, there are over 3,000 counties across the entire United States, and the way that counties operate is they are the largest local government entity pretty much in the entire state. And so there are 58 counties in California, but we receive directly federal and state funding to carry out programs that the federal government and state government pass. And so really what's prepared me for Washington is the fact that I interface with Washington on a regular basis because of the laws that they've passed and the resources they send us. So what I would like to do is go to Washington and make sure that there are more voices that are heard in Washington that are from the local level. When you take a look at the 435 congressmen that serve right now in Washington, very few of them have come from local government. And I think that's one thing that's lacking.
So right now in the news, everyone's talking about this Roe versus Wade getting overturned. What are your thoughts on that?
So again, when I take a look at Roe versus Wade, I'm one who believes in states' rights. And so ultimately with Roe versus Wade, and to my knowledge, everything that's come out, it's been a preliminary document that's been leaked. I'm very troubled by the fact that someone that works there within the United States Supreme Court would leak a document that's not a final document. It's something that's still being contemplated, because you can't have the type of healthy debate within the U.S. Supreme Court unless you do have some confidentiality there. And so I think there were some laws that were broken, and that needs to be looked into. But again, back to Roe versus Wade and what's being contemplated, until a final decision comes out from the court, I really can't weigh in and say what my thoughts are, because everything's preliminary at this point.
So you don't have any input on what the state's decision is? And what?
Well, again, it's the federal government that is weighing in on this, the U.S. Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court right now, the justices are debating. They're trying to decide if Roe versus Wade can stand or if it should be a states' rights issue. So I'm going to wait to see what the U.S. Supreme Court.
It should be a states' rights issue.
I'm one who believes in local control. I'm one who believes ultimately that we need to empower states where the federal government should be limited is based within the confines of the Constitution. And so, again, I'm a states' rights person. I believe that a lot of that power should be as close to the people as possible.
And our freedom of speech, are you worried that it's getting compromised?
Well, when I take a look at just what's going on right now with the censoring on a number of different platforms, I am concerned with freedom of speech and expression. But I remind the public a lot that, you know, if you go back 30 or 40 years ago, we didn't have computers being used like they're being used today. You look at platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and a lot of people have concerns about those platforms. But at the end of the day, we can still interact with one another face to face. And so I would really like to encourage the public to, you know, focus on community gatherings, getting together, and getting back connected with people. I think we are spending too much time on our electronic devices, and we should be spending more time listening to one another and learning from one another.
But sometimes that's, you know, kind of what people have. And I think, you know, being in a pandemic, people kind of got reliable on that. And so that's kind of like their sources. So do you think that there is any like media negligence that we need to look into to kind of refocus back into that?
Ultimately, I believe in personal responsibility. And so individuals need to, whatever they're looking at on the internet, they need to take what they're reading with a grain of salt. And so there are different media outlets that have different tilts. And again, I don't want to take, as someone who works in local government and someone who wants to go to Washington, I don't want to use government as a tool to limit speech. Speech is something which, you know, it's our First Amendment right to have freedom of speech and expression, freedom to worship where we want to worship. So when I see government stepping in that fray, it makes me nervous. And really, government shouldn't be in that space, or if it is in that space, it needs to be very limited. So freedom of speech and expression is important, and I fully support the right of others to be critical of me. I never want to see government step in the way and tell people what they need to think, what they need to say, because that's not what this country was founded on.
And border control issues, and that's something that's becoming very real in California. What is your stance on that?
So we need to have a secure border. We really don't have a country unless we have defined borders. So we need to be pouring money to make sure that our borders are secure. You take a look at the fentanyl crisis we have right now. There's a lot of drugs that are coming across our borders from other countries, and these drugs are killing our kids. And so border security is more than just trying to check people. It's also to check things that are coming into this country that are dangerous. And so we do need to have a border. I'm not aware of any other country that is a country that has no borders whatsoever. For me, I welcome those individuals who want to be in this country, who want to contribute. But again, there are a lot of individuals who are coming across the border who are doing that secretly, who are involved in human trafficking, which is deplorable. And so we do need secure borders. We need to make sure we know as a government who is in this country, and those individuals who want to contribute to our economy are welcome here. Those who want to come here and break laws are not welcome.
Now, what's your stance on Trump? Do you hope that he runs again?
So Donald Trump, I got to tell you, during the Creek Fire, Donald Trump was very helpful to Fresno and Madera counties. Our counties had asked for individual assistance to FEMA, and FEMA denied that request. But within a matter of within 48 hours, Trump got involved and reversed FEMA and allowed for that individual assistance to come to the residents of Fresno County.
Because it needed to be right away. It wasn't like something that you could really sit on.
It's something we couldn't sit on. We didn't have 6 months to try to reapply for this assistance. And so Trump got involved. And so I always appreciated the fact that he got involved. He saw the need that was here in California, and he helped out my residents. So at the end of the day, when it comes to Donald Trump, President Trump, if he chooses to run again, I'm going to be watching that very closely. But I'm one who believes that competition always weeds out the weaker, and the cream always rises to the top.
Well, that's a good way of looking at it. With what's going on in Ukraine, you know, Pelosi just went at the highest ranking U.S. official to go at that point. She said she stands behind Ukraine no matter what. No matter what, she's going to always stand by. Biden has said that if there is a nuclear war, that we'll step in, all of that. Do you think them doing all of this might be triggering a response to a World War III?
So I'm one who believes that if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. And one thing I don't like that the United States is doing right now is I almost feel like we're too reactionary. And while we are providing support, there were steps we could have taken as soon as we saw Russian troops amassing along the border to really blunt an invasion. And that is working with a lot of our NATO allies that we have over in Europe. But it's almost like we are reacting, and we're reacting slowly to what's going on in Ukraine. In the process, what's happening, Ukraine is one of the #1 exporters of grain to not only Europe, but also to Africa. And so we've got a big pinch on food. And so I see this cascading effect right now because we, again, are not, we are acting in a reactionary way. I see this cascading effect where food prices are going to go through the roof.
Right.
And this is not helping anyone. And with China now watching all the moves that the United States and our allies are making in regards to this, I believe that at some point in the near future, they're going to make a move on Taiwan, which also is not a good thing. So really, I have not been impressed with how the United States has responded to this war in Ukraine. We need to be supporting democracies around the world, and Ukraine is a democracy. And Ukraine was a country that had about 44 million people in it. I think there's about 7 or 8 million refugees that have left that country, and that is impacting not only our European partners, but many of these refugees are coming to the United States too. So again, I appreciate the fact that the United States is providing resources, but there are things that we could have done. Secure the air, whether it's through drone technology or other technologies. I think we could have acted a little bit quicker to do that, because whoever controls the air, you then can allow for troop movements to be slowed down, if not stopped and pushed back. So again, I'm not a congressman today, but I've been very frustrated by what I've seen happen. And I believe that we need to be decisive, because the longer we wait and the more that this war escalates, I almost feel like World War III is at our doorstep.
Wow, that's a lot to take on if you become a congressman, right? For our voters right now, and it's really crazy because I was talking to people, I'm like, well, do you know much about local politics? And they're like, no, not really. People that I've had political conversations with, and there's just like this big load of cluelessness going throughout our Central Valley. People will look at the ballot, there's so many things to look at, and then they'll just vote party lines, and they'll be like, well, this guy's been doing this for a long time. Okay, well, vote. What are some of the things you really want viewers to pay attention to, like, that are going to vote this year in your district? Well,
so elections have consequences, and it's very important that you, as a voter, do your homework, take a look at the candidates, look at what policies they've enacted, and really support a candidate that is in alignment with your beliefs. But one thing I want to talk about our representative democracy that we have here in the United States. There was a book written by de Tocqueville back in, I think, 1832 called Democracy in America. And Alexis de Tocqueville came to this country to actually study our prison system. But one of the things that he recognized was how amazing our democracy was. And one of the things he recognized is that the people of the United States were very well educated. They all bought into the American dream that he was witnessing with his own eyes. And so again, I think as Californians, as Americans, we kind of need to get back to the basics. And we really need to understand what this country was founded upon. And so again, individuals need to be fully engaged. They need to educate themselves on the issues, on the candidates that are running, because those elected officials are going to be making decisions, whether it's passing ordinances at the local level or laws at the state or federal level, that really matter. And so I can't force people to engage, but I do want to ask your voters to really look into what I stand for, and I'd be honored to have the vote of those individuals who follow you, Sparkle.
Awesome. And if elected, just going back to a little bit about voters, we have such a problem of, this even happened to me where I lived in Fresno and LA, and I had a ballot in both places, and I was on the phone, like, I live here now, I don't live there. I was getting jury duty in 2 different counties. And this is like a really big problem. There's people that are deceased that are on the ballots. Are we going to ever get a handle on this?
So when it comes to when you move, ultimately it's the voter's responsibility to contact their elections office and provide proof that they have moved and that they want to be removed from the rolls in that respective county. So at the local level where we are challenged, where county elections clerks are challenged, is they're constantly trying to clean up the voter rolls and people are moving constantly. But at the end of the day, it is the responsibility of the voters to notify the elections office and take themselves off of the voter roll in that particular county. So what you can do, since you've been in LA, and if you continue to receive ballots, I would encourage you to reach out to your local elections official. Here in Fresno County, voters can reach out to James Coos directly. You can go online and just look up James Coos, of course, Fresno County Elections, and there will be a telephone number that people can see that they can call if they ever have a question about what they're registered as, or if they want to make modifications, to how they're registered to vote. That can be done both downtown, or you can go to the DMV, or you can make a request right online and you can make modifications that way.
What
too.
about when a person's deceased?
So if someone passes away, one of the challenges is the elections office cannot act until they get access to death certificates. So if nothing is ever sent to the elections office, they have no way of knowing that someone has passed away. But what happens right now with how laws have changed is the elections office mails to every voter, sample ballot and other things. Someone who's deceased eventually, typically in a short period of time, that location is canceled, and so the post office will send that as, undeliverable, return to sender, and that starts a process back at the elections office where they have the ability to investigate further and find out where did the voter move to, why did this piece of mail come back, was it a wrong address that they sent it to, and through that process they can cure some of these issues as well.
And where can we go to support your campaign? If somebody wants to donate, where can we go?
So you just go to nathanmagsig.com, and also you can email me directly at nathan@nathanmagsig.com. And again, I'd be honored to have the support of your audience, and I really appreciate you having me on your show today, Sparkle. Thank you.
Thank you. And on social media, lastly, do you say where you're going to be? So if they want to come into your speaking engagements, we can know where you're going to be at.
Yeah, so again, on my website, if you click on the information tab, you can see a lot of the different events that I have coming up. But on social media, I use Facebook quite a bit, and you can just go to the Nathan Magsig page. And on Instagram, it's Nathan Magsig CA. You can find my information there. And then on Twitter as well, just search for Nathan Magsig CA.
And you're pretty good at posting, hey, I'm going to be here next Tuesday, come see me. And
yes.
Because, people are, they'll go to the website once, but they want to see it up like, oh, Nathan's going to be here on Tuesday. Let's go see him. You know what I mean? So,
yep, so we use that social media platform quite a bit.
I am glad that you're active on it. Thank you so much for coming on my show today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on my show today.
My pleasure.
Okay, so tell our voters, viewers out there, what you are running for and what you've done in the past.
Sure. So I am a candidate that they will see on the ballot for Fresno County Superior Court Judge. And it's a little bit odd because no one has chosen to run against me, so they're just going to see one name. I hope that they vote for me since there's no other choices. But so prior to my becoming a candidate for Superior Court judge, I have worked both in the district attorney's office and then a council member for the city of Clovis, been the mayor there a couple of times. Both really great jobs that unfortunately I'm going to have to resign from when I become a judge in January. But you know, I'm 57 years old now. I've spent 20 years on the Clovis City Council, 25 years as in the district attorney's office. I'm hoping that I can bring to the bench, you know, some of that experience and knowledge that comes with being in those positions to some of the cases that I'll have to address on the bench.
It's going to be interesting because you've worked mainly for the prosecution most of this time in your legal career. Do you think you could be impartial and not just be in favor of the prosecution, being that you've worked for the prosecution so long as a judge?
Yeah, so our role as prosecutors is to reveal the truth and honor the Constitution. So while we are advocates on behalf of the victims of crime, we are certainly advocates on behalf of the Constitution and of the truth. So I don't believe that the role is going to be too significantly different, but it's certainly something I'm aware of. And I recognize that there is some potential for me to have a bias. Now, what they do at the courts is they make sure that a prosecutor who becomes a judge doesn't immediately go into the criminal courts. They generally send them into the civil courts because they need to have a couple of years just away from the prosecution.
That makes sense, okay.
Yeah, and there's an opportunity for some significant conflict. I mean, we are required to recuse ourselves from a case if we've ever appeared on a case that is in front of you as a judge. Does that make sense?
Right.
So if I was a prosecutor, I appered as a prosecutor on a case. As a judge, I can never sit as the judge on that particular case.
No, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, because I would know stuff that maybe other people don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That they bring forth, of course.
Yeah.
What do you plan to do about our courts being so backlogged with cases if you become judge?
So I think one of the most important roles of the judge in that area is to make sure that the continuances are reduced. And, you know, frankly, there has been a lot of grace extended.
Because of COVID.
Right. So we recognize that it has been a challenge for attorneys, for witnesses, for victims, for defense attorneys, even court staff to appear in court during this time, because sometimes they come down with COVID, or the, you know, the mandates that have come down have lessened the amount of employees for all of those areas I've just discussed. And so the continuances are generally granted. The law, however, does call out that continuances should not be granted unless there's good cause for those continuances. So basically what's happened is they've found good cause a lot more frequently than they have in the past. And for me, I'm a real stickler for the law, and I'll make sure that good cause is found before there's any continuances. Other than that, you know, they are planning on building a new courthouse, you know, a decade down the road, so we can have more courtrooms and hopefully more judges to fill those courtrooms so that we can get through all of the cases that unfortunately Fresno County continues to have, and unfortunately crime continues to go up, so we'll continue to have more cases.
Well, that must be hard when you become a judge to try to like let people go that you really think you shouldn't be letting go, but you're going to have to.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big challenge, right?
Right, yeah. I've been the role of an advocate, I've been an advocate both at the city council level for the citizens of the city of Clovis, but also on behalf of you know, the victims of crime, the Constitution and the truth. And for me to kind of, you know, step back and, you know, follow the law is, it shouldn't be too hard for me, because that's what we do all of the time anyway.
Right.
But yeah, I think that there probably will be some emotions I will feel periodically, and that doesn't mean that, you know, I should let my emotions overcome my responsibility as a judicial officer.
And yeah, crime is on the rise. During the day, I'm a personal trainer, and just recently my client got her mailbox broken into. My cousin just got his mailbox broken into. Everybody I know is like getting just all of these things. My car was broken into 2 months ago, and crime is rising because there's really not going to be consequences, and they're not violent.
Yes,
so,
right.
So this is like a big concern.
Yeah, and a lot of those petty theft crimes, we'll call them, they don't seem petty to the victim,
Right.
but technically, at least in the law, they call them petty theft crimes.
Exactly.
Those particular types of crimes have increased because there's just no more room at the jail. And so law enforcement recognizes this, and so does the Margaret Mims, and so people are not kept at the jail like they used to be, and frankly, they should be. So that what happens often is that the cost-benefit analysis that a criminal goes through says to them, there is a benefit to me victimizing these other people because I will get some money that I can use to buy drugs or whatever, right?
Exactly.
And the risk is really minimal because I'm going to get released as soon as I'm caught. So I think that we have started to see that mentality enter into the criminal culture in the county of Fresno. So that does cause them to victimize more and more people, and it's unfortunate that that's the case because obviously our law enforcement as well is overwhelmed because all of these people continue to get released. Some of those releases over the last couple of years has been due to COVID and the restrictions that have been put on the jail as a result of some of those COVID mandates. The hope is that that will turn here soon, and that COVID will no longer be the reason why people are released, that they'll be able to stay in. But we'll see.
Well, that kind of brings us a little bit to bail reform.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about that? Because they're really making some laws to change it. What's your stance on that?
Yeah, good question. So bail reform is traditionally, we expect that if somebody wants to be released from jail, they need to post bail. And there are bail bondsmen, in the county of Fresno who service those inmates or families of inmates who want to get released from jail, because jail is an unpleasant place to be. And so the bail bondsmen, they will charge a certain percentage of the full amount. Let's say the bail is $100,000 for a crime. Sometimes it's 10%, sometimes it's 5%. I've heard as low as 1% that needs to be paid. So when people post bail, it can be as low as $1,000 for a $100,000 bail. And what happens, and people don't probably follow much about the business of bail bondsmen, but what happens is they end up charging a significant amount of interest, and they get that $1,000, and they just hope that the person shows up to court. There has been a move afoot to actually even eliminate bail, not just reform it, but actually do away with it. And the reason for that is that there is a understanding that just because somebody has access to money, whether they're wealthy or they belong to a criminal street gang, that access to money should not be the determining factor as to whether somebody should remain incarcerated. So the analysis is turning into, okay, well, what was this crime about? What is the likelihood that this person is going to reoffend? What is the likelihood that this person is going to show up for their court dates? So that type of analysis is really starting to play a significant role in the determination as to whether somebody's going to be in jail. So I guess to answer your question, I do believe that there is need for some bail reform. And that is a process. And we are in the middle of that process, and there has been some trial and error that has taken place as we've considered some of those points that I raised. And because, frankly, if you're poor and you don't have any money, you're going to remain in jail.
Right.
And there are people who are, I've seen gang members who commit heinous crimes, right? But they have access to money, and because of their gang, and so they are released. And then, of course, it's true as well, people who come from wealthy families, those people who've committed crimes from wealthy families don't remain in jail because they can post bail. So there is an unfairness there that probably needs to be resolved.
And I mean, your experience as just working for the prosecution, what have you seen a lot of people, like a lot of re-entry and a lot of crimes? Have you like helped some of the same people, seen the same people over and over get in there and have those cases again? Because you still get the same people.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And that, what are your takes on that? Why is that? Is it because our prison systems are letting us down, especially with our programs? Because a lot of times they're just like, put them in a program. If they're a drug addict, put them in a program. Put them in a program 20 times. As they get out, it's nonviolent to be a drug addict and still to support that habit.
Right.
So what's your take on all this? And how can we really, as a community, how can we even change this?
Yeah, so there's a couple of thoughts that I have about that. I can't say that there's really one silver bullet. I do believe that for the last few years, people have bought fully into the idea that criminals can be reformed, that they can be rehabilitated. It doesn't matter how bad they have been. If you just push the right buttons in the brain of a criminal, then they will eventually become good citizens. That experiment, I would say, has sort of failed. Not all of the time,
but largely.
Yeah, there are some people, I would imagine.
There's been some success stories for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and frankly, I think for a lot of people who, you've never been arrested, right? And so if you ever get arrested and you're handcuffed, for some people, that's all they need. They never want to go through that again. So they're just going to say, okay, well, I'm never going to commit a crime again. For other people, it's sometimes, unfortunately, generational. It's like, no big deal. You're seeing family members, you're seeing friends in the jail or in prison. So the idea of reform, is I appreciate. There's an optimism that is associated with the idea that people can be reformed. And frankly, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because there are some people who, when they're in prison, the light goes on and they figure out they never want to commit another crime. I'm in a Bible study with a fellow who was doing hard time up at Pelican Bay. And he was in his cell, and this is probably the 10th time that he had been a prison inmate. And he's on his knees and he says, God, all right, I'm tired of this. I've done it all before on my own. I'm giving it up to you. And subsequently to that, he had, of course, thankfully and thank God, he has been free of crime. And so it's a wonderful story. So I don't want to discount those people who have had some opportunity to reform. But it's not necessarily, at least in my view, a matter of pushing the right buttons in the brain. It's more a matter of the heart. And people who have committed crimes and engaged in criminal conduct, they really have to have a heart transformation more than a brain transformation for them to say, okay, well, I'm not going to do this anymore. But drugs can be a very compelling reason. Searching for that next high can be a very compelling reason to engage in criminal activity. Pride, covetousness, though all of those can be drivers for additional crime. And so I just hope that people eventually will figure out, okay, it's less about the psychiatry in my mind, and it's more about the heart. So the other factor, and I'm sorry for going on so long in this answer, but the other factor to consider, in addition to rehabilitation, is deterrence. When you have people who are criminals and they see that people are being released regularly, there's no deterrence there. But if the judge evaluates the case, understands its impact on the community, not just the victim, and how the sentence may communicate a message, then I believe that the judges should start considering more fully the impact the deterrence has in our community when they sentence somebody to a significant amount of time. And then, of course, the California Department of Corrections keeping people in prison because of that deterrent effect, not just keeping them or removing them from the community, but recognizing that there's a message that's being communicated as a result of the punishment the person receives.
It's well said. So speaking of okay, so that guy in your Bible study, what if you had a friend or acquaintance that was in the wrong place at the wrong time, basically was only arrested once.
Yeah.
And they have a felony on their record.
Yeah.
But then they've been doing great things for the community, like great
Yeah.
things like helping veterans
Yeah.
and helping bring awareness issues to the public. Like there's a really good person in the public now, and they come to you and you're the judge. Would you help overturn that felony?
So there is a process for that. It's called a certificate of rehabilitation, and fortunately for me, I get to be the representative in the district attorney's office when the certificates of rehabilitation calendar is heard. And I can't tell you how wonderful it is to be there when there's somebody who has, been arrested one time, maybe even went to prison for 3 years or more, and after they get out, that was it. They
Right.
learned their lesson, right? So, but a lot of people, when they come out of prison, they'll say, "Oh, I've learned my lesson. I'll never do this
Well, like
again."
if it's
right?
been a few years and they've done all these great things, let's
Absolutely.
go that route.
Okay, absolutely. And so the certificate of rehabilitation laws require somebody to have 7 years of engaging in really good, moral, productive conduct within the community. And it's not just, well, I haven't committed a crime. It's like you have a job. You have volunteered.
Right.
You have been a good citizen. You have been industrious in the community in some fashion and for your family, taking good care of the people that you love. When I have that opportunity to sit on that calendar and listen to these stories, it's like, hallelujah. This is exactly what we want as a end result of this criminal justice system, is for people to come out of it and say, you know what, I'm done, and not only am I done with criminal activity, I appreciate my community, and I am actively engaging in my community and loving, my neighbor and my family and taking good care of them. So it's a great calendar. So that's what I would recommend to those people who have been in prison and they want to, express some way to the broader group of people that they associate with that they have been rehabilitated, and that's through that certificate of rehabilitation process.
So you've passed that out before, or you will as judge?
Yeah. So as it's a Friday afternoon calendar. We don't get nearly as many of them as I would like to see coming through, because I'm not so sure a lot of people know about it.
Well, that's why it's good you're talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you're out there and you have a prison record that you want to get cleared up, just complete the certificate of rehabilitation process, and hopefully we'll see you on Friday afternoon and be able to say, good job, congratulations, and the process has worked. So anyway, as a judge, that would be a very rewarding calendar should I have the opportunity to sit on the bench and oversee that particular calendar. I'm going to go wherever they tell me to go.
Thank you so much for coming on my show. And are you active on social media? Like, can we see where your speaking engagements are and what's going on? Are you active in that way?
Yeah, I'm not that active anymore. It's really strange, as an elected official, I was all about social media, trying to get the messaging out. As a judicial officer, that is discouraged. It's almost as though once you become a judge, you become a little bit more of a recluse. And so I can't really say that I have an active social media.
So right now, because until you're judge, I imagine that you'd be
I'm still on, yeah. So I just have a Facebook account. It's just Bob Whalen.
So you don't have a website either where we can go
No.
and look and see your speaking engagements?
No, I don't really have any speaking engagements. And I'm not actively campaigning because I don't have an opponent, and so it's just kind of a weird little deal that I'm going through. But I'm excited to become a judge. Sorry that I'm leaving my 2 great jobs, but I'm excited to become a judge. And I'm glad that you gave me the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Of course. Thank you
Okay,
for
tell us
having me.
about this costume. This is really cool. I love those shoes.
Thank you. They're super old. Actually, I'm Kakashi from Naruto, but I decided to do like a female version of him. So he has white hair. He has a scar over his eye. I have 2 different colored eyes. Usually he has a mask, but I did not bring it today because I thought maybe you'd want to see
Your
me
face.
talk. Yes, but this is actually pretty simple. I just kind of threw it together just to be able to show a little bit into my cosplay stuff. I draw a lot of inspiration just from my favorite characters. So he's one of them. So I just decided, like, why not throw on a white wig and make one eye a different color?
That's awesome. Well, I never dress up for my show. This is actually the first time. So I am Dara from Film Fiend. It's a movie that I'm doing, so it's a character. And you inspire me
Awesome.
because your like costumes are amazing. I love all of them.
Thank you.
Tell us some of the costumes you've done over time.
Well, one that's really popular, like I've only gone to a few conventions. I just started cosplaying about a year. But Chun-Li is a big one from Street Fighter. I like to work out a lot, so I built a lot of leg. And I really like that she's one of the first like playable female characters in like a video game.
You've
so
only been doing this for a year?
yeah, I've only been doing it for a
way.
year.
So you
Yeah,
got started mid-pandemic. That's crazy.
it was a weird hobby.
You have like so many costumes. That's why I'm like amazed right now.
Yes, well, I have. I don't know. Sometimes I just pull things from the closet, and like it's a lot of like
You create a
makeup.
lot of them yourself.
Yes, with the help of Amazon. With the help of Amazon, for sure.
So how'd you get into it?
I mean, I just started watching anime. I mean, honestly, it's really been a very, very short time. But during quarantine, I was spending a lot of time with my kids, and we were watching a lot of shows together. And so I got really, really into like Full Metal Alchemist, and I saw that I had a couple things in my closet that looked like one of the characters, and I was like, that would be cool to recreate it, like if I could. So I just started going through my closet and thinking of things that would look like a character from something I was watching, and I would take pictures, and then it just kind of, it exploded. It exploded
Literally.
into that.
Wow. And so tell us about your fitness. You just did a show.
Yes, I did just compete. So I competed in the Fresno Classic a couple weeks ago. That was the best prep I ever had, for sure, because my coach was amazing, and she was really.
Who was your coach?
Jackie Gill. So she has like, I met her because she was doing stomach treatments just to tighten like skin, you know, like those really good like light therapy treatments. And she really inspired me to want to compete again. So I was like, fuck it, let's just do a competition. Why not? I was getting bored with my body. I wanted to change it.
And how long have you been competing?
I started, my first competition was probably 2017. So I started then, but I took a really long break. Just wanted to build, work on fitness too. So I have a lot of fingers and everything that I like to do.
So tell us about, have you won some shows?
I did place this last show. I did. I got top 5 in call-outs for.
That's so cool. Well, that must have
yes.
been exciting, especially like after COVID. Like you're kind of like, you know, after pandemic, a little bit post-pandemic, getting back into the swing of things. And
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I felt like I was really happy with my placement when I competed, just because I made sure everything was on point, diet, exercise, didn't miss a day. So the package I brought to the stage was the best I could have brought. It was definitely the best I ever felt also, which is the most important, your mindset for things.
So fitness and cosplay, two of my favorite things. I love that, you know, you do it all.
My favorite things. My favorite things
What
also.
do you think, how do you think they parallel? Because there is a lot of similarities.
There is. I mean, if you want to be honest, like anime characters, especially women, they have these really tough, unrealistic body standards. Teeny waists, big old titties, like just, it's very awesome, but that looks really hard to achieve. I try to stay fit just for my own mental health, physical health, but it does help being able to kind of, you know, fit into different outfits and things like that. But I think what a lot of people forget with cosplay is it's not just the outfit, it's how, like, it fits you as a person. So
you
that
have
way,
to have a fierceness to compete, and you have to have a fierceness to do a
Yes.
lot of anime characters.
right. I feel like I just make my outfits and my cosplays my own, like to fit my own body type, so I can feel comfortable and look as good as I can, not just to mimic like an anime character, but to also kind of be able to make it my own. I think that's what it is. Like you kind of have to make it your own thing, so that way it can, you know, be portrayed like original, like something that you like, other people will like. So.
What advice do you have for up and coming cosplayers? Like girls are like, I kind of want to do it, but I don't know.
I would just say stay true to yourself. Like do what you like, do what makes you happy. Like if you really feel like you love a character and you want to dress up like a character, like just do it. Like, I mean, it's a form of self-expression. You know, it's a way for people to be able to kind of like, you know, what I feel on the inside, you put it on the outside. A lot of conventions I go to, I feel like a lot of people, even though they're dressed up, they can still be them. Like it's almost like they can be more themselves when they're dressed up. So as long as you just stay true to what you like if you like it, then fuck it, do it. Well, that's what I did.
That's so
it.
cool. And it's but it's a little bit costly, right? To kind of get the right, you know, I'm going to these conventions. Has it been
Yes.
lucrative in any sense back? Like I'm sure you sign autographs. Do you do a little bit of that?
Not quite there yet, Sparkle.
Okay. You should be if you're not. You should be.
Not quite there. But yeah, it can be costly. But if you know what you want to put together, there's a lot of different ways to be able to get materials. You can make things yourself at home. Like I said, like even something like this today, these are my gym pants. Like this is just shoes, but there's a few articles that you can
So you're buying
piece
stuff
together.
and then using some stuff you already had.
Yeah, like you can be creative and not everything has to be like super, you know, like expensive. You can always make things yourself. And
What do your fitness people think of your cosplay world?
Well, I haven't worn any animal ears to the gym yet. That's something I strive to be brave enough to do.
But when they see you're doing that, like, what is going on here? I guess it's a little bit of a different base where they kind of like, what is
Yes.
that? I want to do that.
Just a little bit, yeah, but everyone's pretty supportive. Yeah, because I think when people see that you're passionate about something, like, and I've surrounded myself with a great group of people, fitness, cosplay. So, I mean, people that I first meet, they're like, oh, well, what is that? Like, I don't know what that is. Or
A lot of people ask me what that means about cosplay. So you're always
Right.
kind of educating people on the
Yes.
concept, right?
I dress up. I like to play dress up. That's my hobby. Some people like to play pool. I like to play dress up. I don't know. But I just, yeah, everyone's been really supportive.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What's a character you really want to dress up as that you haven't done yet?
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I have about 4 half-done cosplays in my closet.
Can you tell us what they are?
One Satsuki from Kill La Kill. That's one of my favorite animes ever. She's a real badass, like kind of like an authoritative figure, and I really like powerful women, especially in anime. But the outfit that she has is a little bit, it shows a lot, you know, so I
Right.
also have to feel a little bit more brave to
Well,
wear
you
it. But I
should-
would love to.
You
I would
should
love to
right
wear
now,
it.
fresh off a competition. That's the best time, right?
You're right. But I need to have them need to be bigger up top. Like I'll get creative with it. Not that you necessarily have to have a certain body type, but just me specifically, I have
Right.
little things details that I like to put into my cosplays that I feel like make it like what in my vision, what I want it to be. Otherwise, I'm not going to mess with it. So Satsuki from Kill La Kill, that is something I'm really working up the courage to try and cosplay. So hopefully that's next. But Chun-Li seems to be the most popular. I've worn that to conventions. And that one is huge. Like that one's a real popular one. So I might actually wear that to the convention coming up in June.
Nice. So which one's that?
There is Anime Fuse, and it's the Bushido Car Show. It's June 11th at the Fresno Fairgrounds. So I have a booth there, so I'll be there with my friends. We're going to be all dressed up, and I'll be like selling prints and things like stickers, air fresheners.
See, you are getting with it, girl.
That.
I knew you were doing some stuff like that.
Of course, you got to grow somehow, you know? And Anime Fuse was really great and also reached out and wanted to work with me. So I'm super, super excited to be able to have an opportunity to meet more cosplayers and kind of get my name out there. It'll be a fun show. So
do some of these cosplay people, do they ask you for fitness tips?
Yes.
I thought so.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. But I'm not a coach. But if I can help out, if they wanna ask like what I do, like of course I will tell them. I mean, it's just basic. It's a basic workout split. You know, you just lift weights. That's pretty much what I do. Lift weights.
Yeah, that's all you do, girl.
Lift weights and be hungry sometimes. That's really.
So where do we go in the future? Are you looking into doing more fitness competitions? I know your cosplay career is growing.
Right. Let me think. I mean, for fitness, well, the rest of this year, I'm not quite sure if I want to compete. I'm waiting for feedback from the judges just to see what I can work on. It is pretty taxing to prep. It takes a while. It takes a lot of mental strength and a lot of discipline. So I'm thinking maybe I will take some time off, and possibly next year I can try to compete again if I feel like it. We'll see. We'll see where it goes with that. I am focusing more on my cosplay stuff right now, just because it makes me happy, and that's something that if it makes me happy, I want to grow with it and get better with it. You know, there's always room to learn more, and I've met so many great people, so that's what I'm kind of concentrating on right now.
Well, I love following you. You're really fun. You have a positive outlook. You're into my favorite things.
Thank you, Sparkle.
Tell everyone where to follow you. Are you most active on IG?
Yes, yes, mostly Instagram. I don't really get on Facebook too much. It's been a while. I feel like I can reach out to people more on Instagram. That's just kind of
What about Twitter?
Twitter, I don't have a Twitter. I've been thinking about making one.
You know what's funny, honestly, is that's how I got into cosplay, was through Twitter.
Really?
Yeah, because everybody was
tweeting.
They were just it just somehow fell into that. So that's actually like where I post the most cosplay stuff is on Twitter. So.
Okay.
So yes, get one.
I know. I'm slacking. I should probably make a Twitter. Instagram is where I'm at most of the time.
And then you'll keep everybody posted on your upcoming events, which is great because I mean, by watching you and looking at your feed, people can be like, oh yeah, that's cool. I want to go to that because you're going up and down the state.
Yes. So on IG, that's where pretty much.
So after this one in June, what else you got going on this year that you know for?
You know, I've been so focused on getting all the stuff together for June.
You haven't booked any other?
I have not. I have not thought too far into that.
Well, that's smart.
But I'm sure there'll be something. I always have something that I'm working on. I have a lot of projects going on at once, and so this is the one I'm focused on. But after that, I'm like, maybe I can take a little bit of time.
Yeah,
a little bit of time, but
June 11th, everyone go see this girl at the fairgrounds. And
Yes.
what's your Instagram?
Sweet Mayumi. Sweet Mayumi.
So follow her, everyone. Thanks for coming on my show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Felt right in the moment, felt right in the summertime. It felt right drinking cherry wine with you. Just wanted to own it, just wanted to take the time, learn all the things that I could about you. Now it's such a mess here, oh we are just stressed here. Used to be so easy with you. Now I must confess here, oh I must confess dear, don't think I'm in love with you. Winter is coming and I don't know what there's no more use in running, no more running to you. And I don't want your loving, I don't wanna be just friends, knowing all this time we were playing pretend. Playing pretend. Playing pretend. Ooh, playing pretend.
It's a mystery.